Good morning, guys. Good morning. How nice is it today, huh? We should all go do a picnic. Yeah? That sound good?
Yeah.
This guy wants to do it. All right. Hey, Matt, what's up, man?
Jolly good morning to you, too.
Yes, it is. We have a season premiere to do this week.
We do.
What do you need me to do, man? I'm ready to work.
Yes.
Season premiere. What's up, man?
I know. Let's see. On Wednesday, we have a demo that needs filming.
Okay.
I need to get you started on editing Ninja Gaiden 2. And so Calibur 4 comes in today.
What? Dude! Thanks, man. Thanks.
Sorry, dude.
What the fuck, man? Whoa. Oh, hey.
Hey,
morning, man.
You're all wet, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, did you hear? Soul Calibur's here! Yes! Oh my god! Yeah! That's awesome! Oh my god, Soul Calibur! That's so awesome! Dude, I can't believe it's here! This is so great! Dude, Soul Calibur! Dude! Mikey's gonna be so excited, dude!
It's gonna be so awesome!
Oh, man. Oh,
Yeah.
dude! Yeah!
People are talking about the camera like as being such an issue that like people who haven't even played the game are all like oh, the camera's horrible, but you know it's sent out this really horrible wave. But I mean, anybody with basic gamer instincts like will eventually learn how to compensate for certain things. I mean, like in any action game that's as fast moving as this, you're never going to have an ideal camera. You're moving from playground to playground. You're beating guys up. The camera's not always optimal. I mean, like even in something as simple but I mean, like when you're running around, it's not like the camera's fighting with you. It's not like you're running towards the camera like in Silent Hill or something. Most of the time, it's following you.
Everyone agrees that like the combat is still amazing in this game, and like it's actually better than Ninja Gaiden 1. But in 5 years later, the camera is identical. Has none of the achievement, the advancements we've seen other games have. No thought was put into it. Like the camera design in this game is lazy. You're babysitting the whole time. You're getting hit off screen. You're constantly annoyed by it.
Yeah, it has been advanced, but it doesn't make it unplayable.
They've tried to make it more approachable for your average gamer. They have made it easier with the rechargeable health. You have a lot more items, you have a lot more save points. It just seems to me that all they would have had to do is just put a couple of different options for the camera.
As accessible as they tried to make things, I think though now more than ever it's a game that you play for one reason solely, because the game, like, it looks pretty, but you no longer, like the original, a lot of people played it just because of how good it looks, I think. No one's playing this just because it looks great. They're playing it for the combat because it's satisfying and bloody and whatever. So it's like, that's why you play the game.
In Ninja Gaiden 1, everyone said, like, an average person can, like, average enemy can roll up and kill you. I honestly don't feel that's nearly the case as it was in the past one. Mostly because...
Really regenerating health.
Well, not just regenerating health, but, like, once you amputate them, they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, after the first level, if a person with a missing limb hurts you, it's your own.
They do this. And then...
Yeah, well, it's your own fault because
but
your
as long
first
as you
move.
can stay away. If you can clear out the rest of the guys, your health regenerates. Except for the little chunk of permanent damage.
You have to kill everyone. You can spam the hell out of the obliteration technique, which is the execution move, and it's really easy to
And
do.
if you get really good at it, if you start learning how to space things out and you land and you time it right to push Y, you can keep just almost chaining those obliteration techniques and like clear a field of dudes, And one thing that's pretty good is that the save points are spaced out pretty well. I think they know exactly when you've had your ass handed to you for a good intense period of time, and then there's usually a save point. There are no places where I just feel like giving up. Like there's some games that are so hard. I mean, the last Ninja Gaiden was much more unforgiving. You know, it's like you might think like, oh god, do I want to go through this section again?
I have one boss battles. I gotta say there were a couple of boss battles where I did get frustrated. One in particular, the armadillo guys, which you run into right after you finish another boss battle. You crash down. You fight these two armadillos later in the game. And you have fought one of them earlier in the game, and there's a nice little surprise you get the first time you fight it if you don't know. It suicide bombs and blows itself up, and it'll pretty much kill you. I think even from full health all the way down.
Dude, it kills the Megaton.
Yeah, and basically the only way to survive that is to use Nimpo at the right moment, and you'll be invincible to it. You have to question though, it's coming out a week before Metal Gear Solid 4. Were they under a lot of pressure to shove it out the door before Metal Gear so that 360 has this exclusive before the PS3 gets
I don't
it?
know. I mean, like they could have easily held it back to a September release, for example. There's no benefit to like releasing it in June. It is a little rough around the edges, but I think like what we're talking about is like a second or third layer of polish. I don't think there was going to change that much. It's still going to attract the very same audience. Maybe you get a couple more DMC players from here, a couple more God of War players from there, but you're still going to get your ass kicked if you don't learn these mechanics. And it takes a very dialed in, pumped up dude.
That's why I think it's niche. Exactly that. It's because that audience, like this is selling to a very specific audience, and the rest of the game mechanics haven't changed to make it more accessible, and that's fine. I just think that is why it's niche.
I don't think I would go so far as to call it niche. I mean, signing up, like buying an action game, you want action. That doesn't limit its appeal.
Well, I mean,
this should broaden its appeal to action fans because you're like.
Violent action games is not a niche product.
The good thing though is that this is more forgiving because using health items, using Ninpo, that doesn't penalize you in terms of like your
Karma score.
Your karma score. It's like having more Ninpo available to you at the end.
Remaining Nimpos.
Increases your overall score, but
when I was using the Nimpo, I was never really using it to do damage on people. That was a side effect. I would use it for invincibility purposes because and just use it as basically a shield.
should also bring up is now, now that Ninja Gaiden's out today, last night Itagaki announced that he's leaving Team Ninja.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing, obviously. I think there will definitely be another Ninja Gaiden. I think what the current management at Tecmo is going to do is that they're just going to start spamming out sequels.
Well, obviously Microsoft's publishing Ninja Gaiden 2. Is there possible for them to put out a Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma on PS3 6 or 9 or 12 months down the line?
This is just a publishing deal.
Yeah.
So, Microsoft's just publishing Ninja Gaiden 2, and it's kind of like a second party type of game, like the way Rare and Nintendo were working. Right. But it's still a Tecmo IP, so they can do what they want. There's a window of exclusivity.
I would not mind seeing that at all, because if they can fix like some balance issues and camera issues and just little things that add up to like make the game like more frustrating than it should be, then I think it's like a great game. Then I think like
you can fix camera?
Yes. Well, that's what they tried to do between Ninja Gaiden and Black, but
I wouldn't count on it happening though. I know that the president would probably want to do this.
Right.
I'm sure he would love to put DOA 4 or create a DOA 5 for PS3 or whatever console seems most feasible. But who's to say that people don't follow Itagaki out the door?
So let me ask, if this is the last Ninja Gaiden game, how do you guys feel about that? Like, is this?
Well, I don't think it has to be. I think without Itagaki, like Tecmo could move forward and make another Ninja Gaiden as long as they keep the gameplay intact. Because that's what I think Itagaki did to Ninja Gaiden that was so brilliant, was the gameplay. But frankly, I think he dropped the ball in terms of narrative.
Art director.
Yeah, in terms of art direction, cutscenes, narrative, story. Like Ninja Gaiden 2, it phoned it in.
Right.
Like the story is ridiculous.
We're spoiled because we see all these new next-gen games and but there are a lot of games that are like just will never achieve this level of polish, finesse, like excitement.
Absolutely.
I really like DMC4, but those enemies do not come after you in the game like Ninja Gaiden 2's
It's true.
do. There's no denying this is a hard game.
Yeah.
But there are basically all the elements that you need in this game to be able to you know, to be able to fight your way out of it, to defend yourself. I mean, there are going to be times where you're going to get cheap shotted, like, but I don't know any game that doesn't have, like, you know, a few cheap shots.
I think it's a great game. The combat's amazing. It's basically everything you expect. But my problem is it's nothing you didn't expect.
Right, they could have done more. They could have done more.
It's more Ninja Gaiden. The combat's as awesome as ever, but it never like blows you away or goes from left field.
I think the combat. I think it's easier than the last one. I think the combat is better. I think what the biggest problem is that, you know, we really wanted that exponential next gen leap,
right.
And 6 more months in the can, you know, would have helped it out.
Right.
But we, you know, this is what it is, and I still think, like, if you're looking for a serious action game, you're not really going to find any better than this in terms of just the sheer combat.
Well, Ninja Gaiden 2 is pretty a satisfying game. It took me about 19 to 20 hours to
Well, especially on 360, which your only other choice is pretty much Devil May Cry 4.
Right.
They don't have a God of War to choose for. So for that audience, like, that really wants to style the game, they're going to get it, and they're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And get a lot of frustration.
Transcending history and the world. A tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
No fucking
We got it, baby. Let's do it.
God. Oh god. I got it. David. Oh shit. Gotta tell somebody.
Come on, let's go. Don't you want to play?
Mikey.
Mikey's a good idea.
Dude, it's here. It's here, dude. Get your ass up here.
Come on, let's go.
Oh god.
Oh man. Oh, Mikey.
Woo!
I think he wants to follow.
Dude, let's go.
Yeah, let's do this. Start it up.
Soul Calibur 4.
Oh, yes. That's the one.
Versus, yo, versus.
You guys ready for this?
I'm ready.
Oh, man.
What?
What the hell? There's only 4 characters here. What the fuck's going on?
4 characters.
Oh,
4?
hey, at least Mr. Rookie's still in there.
Four gods wait on the windowsill, where once 8 gods did war and will. And if the gods themselves may die, what does that say for you and I?
I've always liked the writing in the Penny Arcade comics, and you know, Terry Hulkin's prose. Some people find it a little dense, but I'm always entertained by it, even when it is like a little hard to parse. But
If you're the kind of person who hates the Penny Arcade humor, you're gonna hate the story.
well,
and everything that goes
especially
along with it.
because the humor specifically refers, it's kind of the Gabe and Tycho interaction rather than the other comics, which sometimes deal with, you know, specific industry events.
Right.
So it's less the satire stuff than it is the, you know, Tycho uses big words. Gabe likes to punch things. If you don't even understand what that character interaction is, you're just it's gonna kind of go over your head.
Yeah.
Which actually, I think this is the most surprising part of the game to me, was just how fun the battles were, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
No,
Like, I was expecting maybe the cash-in, and it would be funny, but there wouldn't be much to the game. But I actually enjoyed these battles more than I have a lot of, you know, pretty high-profile console RPGs recently.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff to do. They give you, you know, even if it's stupid, like jamming on the spacebar really fast and then lining up another line with another line.
Yeah.
At least you're doing that while you're juggling, watching some other people's, you know, active time meters, for better lack of a better word.
Right.
And I really liked the way they handled items. And that's
Me
one
too.
thing
like,
that
it's the first action thing that fills every time.
it's fast.
And yeah.
It's fast, and because it's fast, it means you'll actually use it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of role-playing games, especially like some of the Final Fantasy series, items are kind of this thing you collect to sell. But this one you actually have complete incentive to use them, because
they're all over the place. They respawn. You can just like break open a trash can, and there's another item inside, and just collect them and collect them and collect them. So it's the game's kind of telling you like, no, we want you to use these things.
Right.
Yeah, using an orange, or even using like a minus 75% attack power thing. Okay, you're not going to hurt me for a while, so I don't have to worry about you.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Even the way you have to counter and block is key. If you don't do that, you will die.
Yes. There is a little sound effect that goes along with it, like you have that little, and there are life bar flashes, but there needs to be some kind of better indicator as to when to counter. The fact that you always have to pay attention to the enemy attacks so that you can block them means that you're never just sitting there watching something happen.
Right. I actually had to use your support characters. I would often use those simply to buy myself more time. Because the T. Kemper, the cat, the one who does 1 point of damage for some reason that you don't really understand.
Right.
I would use him.
He has a really small chance to do a massive amount of damage. Never happened to me either, but Ryan said it happened to him twice when he was using the cat. I was actually a little bit disappointed in the lack of character customization options.
There weren't very many.
No, there really wasn't any more than there were in the demo. Well, the art style certainly carried across.
Definitely.
I was super impressed with the way that turned out, because it's so hit and miss whenever you try to take 2D source material and turn it into kind of a 3D model. Anytime the frame is stopped and people are standing still, pretty much has to look like a 2D image. And
which is hard because like Microhelic style. You wouldn't think would be conducive to making a 3D model out of it. They managed to find a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, they did.
I say mostly perfect because from the edge of the city to its black heart, it pulses with evil. But we may be getting ahead of ourselves.
And I also noticed they did a little bit of the Mass Effect Dreamfall thing, where what you say sometimes, or your dialogue options that you can choose, don't always match 100% to what your character actually says.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I like that because, you know, you can base your response more off kind of a feeling or a first impression than you have to like the exact text.
There's a little element of surprise too.
Yeah.
You can tell they play a ton of games.
Yeah.
All of these little elements we're talking about have been drawn from somewhere else. It's like as if they were like, okay, this part of Lost Odyssey is great, but this part's crap. So let's take the great part. See if we can work that into our battles.
Well, and I feel that it's almost a primer for some game designers out there to stop doing the same thing over and over again and feel free to borrow from everywhere, inside your genre, outside your genre, whatever makes the game better, because that's what they did and they succeeded at it.
Right. But the flaw was just the repetition of the environments, I felt. Because what they did is, and you know, episodic nature, Sam and Max did the same exact thing, but it's a little more forgivable in that one. But what they do is you kind of go back to the same area, you go back to Hobo Alley. How many times? Like,
a lot.
500? Yeah. It seemed like a lot, but like the last time you're there, you're like, okay, here's Hobo Alley again, and it's repopulated with new types of enemies, which is cool because, like I said, I thought the battles themselves were cool and interesting, and I thought they found different ways to even make the encounters more interesting as they went along too. Like when you're fighting the barbershop quartets,
right?
It's a very distinct like strategy to that versus you know, fighting the mimes. I felt after I was finished with episode 1 that like that was it. It didn't really feel necessarily like an episode, and it felt like my character, you know, kind of reached his max.
Right. I would hate it if I went to episode 2 and there was some story excuse at the beginning which made all of us lose all of our powers and weapons, and we had to build them back up again.
Well, that's what's going to happen, of course.
I know, but what I want to happen is I want to start at, you know, level 7 or 8 or whatever the equivalent is in you know, Penny Arcade. It's just like in Dungeons and Dragons, like the pen and paper version. You know, you have your dungeon modules that take you from levels 0 to 4. Then your dungeon modules that are appropriate from 4 to 8. You know, I want to keep going like that. You know, Baldur's Gate series did that too, and I'm hoping that they kind of go more that route as opposed to starting you from scratch every time.
It has a very auteur kind of feel, even though there is an entire development house, Hothead, behind it. It definitely has the feel of like, these two guys made this game.
Yeah.
Even though, and like everyone else was kind of channeling them the whole time. Yeah. You know, they have Ron Gilbert's help too. He's no small shakes.
Right.
So
it does feel like a labor of love. You know, they're going to have a lot of pressure on them from being critics and such, you know, righteous indignation kind of critics for so long as well, that people are going to look and try to find every little flaw that they can and really come hard down on these guys. And, you know, perhaps deservedly so considering their legacy, but overall, once I had completed the game, I looked back on it and I thought, well, these guys really, really wanted to make exactly the game that they made. And they got to do it. And it came across as this, you know, this labor of love as opposed to something where it was just, let's cash in on our franchise.
Sparks flying from blades in battle light the fire in his soul.
There is something I must finish. Fine. Come on.
Battle 1. Fight!
So we kind of knew that we were going to get at least Soul Calibur 3 with better graphics and higher res, and it's at least that. We've only got 4 of the characters in this build that we had. I don't think any of us are playing our true characters, but it's been cool because I think that's given us a reason to kind of check out some of the new characters like Hilda.
How do you like Hilda?
So far,
she plays different.
She's different.
Definitely.
And I don't think I'm that great with her yet. I was pleased that Hilda has these Balrog type moves that feel really different than what I'm used to in Soul Calibur, where you hold down either A or B or horizontal, vertical slash, and then you can let them go and immediately follow them up with whatever the button you were holding, double tapping it, and it'll do like an unblockable attack. Part of the key of playing her is going to be mastering when you should be holding down those kind of chargey, unblockable moves. But it's different and it's fun.
I struggle with balancing charging A and charging B while juggling guarding and kicking.
When Richard and I first started playing it, we thought that it was probably too powerful.
KO!
I think it's still too powerful. If you have really slow reflexes, it's really hard to parry the first move.
Right.
The second move is unblockable. It reminds me of Jason's girl, Sophia's unblockable move, which was toned down in the arcade edition in Soul Calibur 3. The speed of the unblockable. It's that move, unless it's toned down, I think it's going to be really overpowered. Really? Very.
Final battle. Fight! Ring out!
Is that all you got?
I guess hopefully, I mean, with like some of these new characters that they're bringing in, I just hope they're not clone characters and that they'll actually be new characters like Hilda.
The big change is these two like gems that are up next to names. And the way it works is that both characters, when you start the match, their gems will start out green. And then as you attack, if the other character blocks your attack, your gauge starts turning blue, which is good, and their gauge starts turning red. Once their gauge turns all the way red, you can actually break it, and at that point you can initiate the critical strike.
But you have to have your meter like fully charged up.
Calibur fatality.
Right, so that's the tricky part.
And to do it, it's basically just hit the 4 buttons right after you
break
the armor.
Right.
It's not called fatalities, is it?
It's called critical finishes.
Critical finishes, okay.
But it's basically it's a fatality.
Okay.
I just hate the comparison to Mortal Kombat because when someone says fatality, it's after you kill somebody. It's not during the fight. It's after the fight. It's sugar on top. When you do a critical finish, the life bar of the enemy can be at max, and you instantly KO him.
Yeah.
In Mortal Kombat, in order to do a fatality, the opponent's life has to be 0, not 100, not 50, 0.
I don't know. To me, they just don't feel like fulfilling. Like
It's like everyone here, it seems,
Right.
at least in this build, only has one move they do. It doesn't change based on the
and you
level.
do them all the same.
Yeah.
You just hit the
I
four
think-
buttons and
I think
it goes off.
in my perfect world, I wish they were distance-based so that you could actually whiff one. And I wish that they didn't pull you out of the game world. When the critical finish starts in this game, I feel like I'm out of the game. At that point, I'm watching a cutscene.
Yeah,
It's
fades.
game over.
It fades in and fades
Yeah,
out.
it fades in
Yeah.
and fades out. I wish it felt like part of the match. If I did a critical finish that was totally brutal looking or whatever, and it felt like the end of that match rather than a cutscene, then I would be much more into it. That said, I have to work to set it up, and I have to make sure that I'm not blocking, you know. Seeing the animation, totally not fulfilling. But
Right.
doing it, fulfilling. At least at this point, and I really didn't think I was gonna like it.
Whereas most games, you can kind of get away with turtling. That means just blocking a lot. Now there's emphasis on attacking because the game penalizes you if you block a lot. The inclusion of these critical finishes, it makes you change the way you play.
Well, not me, because I'm crazy and I don't really know what I'm doing.
But okay, noob. Anyways,
That's the thing, is it doesn't change the way that I play. They're built for players that play like me. I've been watching my little crystal the whole game. It never leaves blue. It never goes near red because I don't block. I just don't do it. I guard impact or I get hit. That's how I play. So for me, it's actually a benefit. When I'm playing against other people that do block, it means I have a better chance to win now, and I kind of like that.
in my experience, it's like shit.
No chains allowed.
I had to change when you're killing me because I was just blocking.
Yeah.
Because then that's what I do. I block a lot.
Yeah, so there you go.
But
You're
it
gonna have
forces
to hence your turtle
it forces me to dodge more. It forces me to GI, and it forces me to predict your movements more often. It's like, okay, wait, if Ryan's gonna GI, shit, I'm gonna throw him.
Hey, remember 3 years ago, I predicted that Soul Calibur needed fatalities, and you guys all laughed at me.
I thought you were goddamn crazy.
Alright, I know this might be premature because Soul Calibur 4 hasn't officially launched yet, but for Soul Calibur 5, you know how there's Tekken Tag? What about Soul Calibur Tag? Huh? Huh?
It's almost as dumb as putting fatalities in the game.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
What
don't
do you
know.
guys
Tag
think?
guy, man.
Soul Calibur Tag. What do you guys think?
Nice try, Mikey.
Yeah.
One of the other changes that's really interesting in the game that I thought was going to change gameplay turned out to be more of a visual change, and I appreciate it because it makes the game feel next gen. And it's actually the thing that Milky asked the Soul Calibur team to include in the game a year ago when we were out visiting them. He said, wouldn't it be cool if, you could like see characters' clothes get ripped and stuff when they get hit? It's not so dynamic as that in the game, but you can knock armor off of their body in 3 different places. I just think it looks really cool.
That adds stuff for realism, just immerses the players. You're like, damn, I knocked something off Mr. Rugi, and it's still on the floor, damn!
Right. And it also affects gameplay too, because once you've had one of your armor sets taken off, that part of your armor is suspect, and you take like 10% more damage than you would if you still had the armor.
There's no soul charge anymore. And what's funny about soul charge being taken out of the game is that I feel like I finally started to use it the way that it was meant to be used in Soul Calibur 3. Like I never really used it much in 1 or 2, but by 3 I was incorporating it into my play and I thought it was making a big difference. It's weird that it's gone now because I just got used to it. Now I sort of miss it.
I never really used them, so like I didn't.
I'm sure most players won't care.
I always found soul charges to be kind of risky.
They took out the jump and the horizontal swing, which becomes a low attack.
Right. Am I wrong? It was a universal move for every
was,
character.
yeah.
It's a universal move.
Everyone
use
had
it,
But now
to set up high-low games.
It was so awesome. I totally used it, and now it's gone.
So we have an earlier build. Is it possible that the developers could put it back in the game?
It says this is a sad song.
That's his.
Please, please. That was part of my gameplay. I can't believe they took that out.
So even though they took out some moves, they also included new moves. For example, the new GIs.
Oh yeah. The back GI
back
is
GI.
totally different now.
It sends the opponent down to the ground.
If the character's knocked on the ground, it pops right back up. You can even come straight into full guard.
Only if you hit block right at
Right.
the moment of
Yeah.
the time you fall.
Thought
Once you
Initially.
pop up, though, could the opponent see that start running towards you, only to throw you after you pop up?
But the person who pops up can also initiate a throw move like instantly as well.
The person on the ground should be at a disadvantage.
They're not. At least not. I haven't noticed it so
like
far.
one thing that we were talking about when we were discussing this yesterday is like Keelik has lots of recovery moves that you do while you're.
Yeah.
They're not even while rising moves. They're different than while rising moves. They're done actually while on the ground and not rising. He's got the one I use all the time. He just does this like stick spin. And so, if I get knocked to the ground with the ground GI and I still have that move accessible, then the person that GI'd me is going to need to block low right after I do it or attack low really fast. Because
what about
I can
jump?
do that.
I mean, would they still be able to jump?
They could jump over it as well. I don't know if it's a bad change or a good change. It's just a change. And it's one of the things that's going to make going back and playing the previous versions just a little weird for a second. Most of us seem to think that the guard impact has been given a few more frames of
I think it is. There is a leniency.
So you don't have to be quite as exact as you did before. I think they're trying to make it easier for new players to be able to hop in and learn GI. The real big change in this game, I think, is going to be the online play. And we don't have it yet, so we can't really comment on it. And I hope it's good.
Yeah.
But even if it's not, I mean, I'm going to sound shallow like here, but it's amazingly gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Definitely.
If you have an HD TV and you've
Yes.
played Soul Calibur 3 on it and you've played Soul Calibur 4 on it, you're not going to want to go back. I'm playing on PS3 and it's great, and it's another reason to use the awesome Virtua Fighter sticks, which I love. So
And
it's
if you
great.
don't have a stick for 360, you have to find some on the internet.
Or you got to mod out your controller.
Yeah.
The D-pad is just by default unacceptable.
Arcade in the box, pretty good sticks.
Yeah.
ArcadeInTheBox.com.
Did you get it for free? You promised to plug that shit.
You're promoting it?
No, I bought it for like $170.